Welcome, everybody. I am so happy to be here for this special roundtable celebrating We Are Quantum. What an incredible group of individuals I'm sitting with today. We're going to go around and introduce everybody. But I want to talk about, as an introduction, the book that is just being released. All of us here today are collaborators and contributors to this book. So this book brings together many voices around healing, consciousness, transformation, and the deeper quantum nature of who we are. I'm honored to be one of the co-authors, and I want to congratulate all of the contributors on this beautiful beginning, especially with the book already being recognized as an Amazon bestseller new release. So I'm also grateful to introduce Lisa Schermerhorn, who helped bring this gathering together. Lisa is a quantum healer, a certified Y coach, certified hypnotherapist, master practitioner of NLP, mindset coach, best-selling author, and professional speaker. And with so much gratitude, I'd love to welcome Lisa, who will share more about We Are Quantum and introduce the rest of this beautiful panel.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I so appreciate being here and being here with all of you. I want to get to a little bit of the beginning of how this started because a couple of years ago I got trained in this quantum healing, but I've been doing energy medicine for years. And my daughter came up to me and she's like, "What's this quantum healing stuff?" And trying to explain it in the way of like going into quantum physics, I knew it wouldn't work. And I know that the best way for people to learn is really through story. And I started to think about all the people that I knew who worked in the quantum field and different parts of, because quantum is everything, right? And people don't really understand that and the whole idea of manifesting. So I started every time I talked to someone and I knew their story, I'm like, you have to be in the book. And then I'd run into someone else, I'm like, you have to be in the book. And the stories became so diverse, and I finally had to stop at 36 because the book is 311 pages. It's getting too big. And then even when I had the cutoff, though, I met two more people. I was like, oh, if I had more time, I would have added them as well. But the stories go from everything, like Dr. Joe Vitale goes into Ho'oponopono and zero limits. And then we have Dr. Carrie Madej, who talks about healing herself from a plane crash. And they told her that she would never have the use of her leg again, and now she's completely fine. So there are people who have been in motorcycle accidents. There are people who channel art. There are people who channel in the quantum realm, astrology, so many different things. And I wanted to have something that related to everyone because some people are more pragmatic. There are people who take a more pragmatic approach. There are some people who are much more woo-woo in the sense, and there are people who they'll relate to. I was just talking to one of the contributors before this call. She works with animals and she's an animal healer. And then I have someone else who communicates with the plant kingdom. So there's so much here and so much richness. And I wanted people to get to know a little bit about some of the contributors. And the event, we're doing an amazing author event on Tuesday, June 16th. We're hoping that people will buy the book on Tuesday and help us get to bestseller on that day. We've got people in Europe. There's an event there too, if people are interested in that, and I'll give you the link so people can register for either one of those. And so, Laura, I met you a couple of years ago, and I've always loved your heart and your generosity to other people and your brilliance. I'm listening to your type of astrology and your also ability to fight for what's right and fighting for the UFO exposure and all of that with
Mhm.
your great grandfather. And I just thought it would be beautiful to have you in this book too. So I was wondering if who I wanted to ask each one of you what quantum really is to into each of you and how it's manifested so people can get a general idea of who you are and what your contribution was in the book. So I don't know who would like to start. Laura, I don't know if you want to start.
Well, it's really to me about like the bigger picture of everything and how everything is so interrelated. When I focus on the astrology, I see it as so much more than just what's going on in the stars or something predictive or something that I don't know, just shows characteristics. I see it as something that connects us with the planetary grid network, the multidimensional cosmos, um, our DNA, and how switching on dormant DNA is a part of ascension. The epigenetics is a huge factor in all of this. How does the mind speak to the body? What is it actually switching on? And what are we experiencing as humans in this physical experience based in our thought forms and what it lights up in us? So when we change the dialogue out of programmings into more coherence and alignment with our higher self and our truth and our dreams and our visions, it changes the nature of reality. And so it's just been a fascinating journey. And so I know I talked a lot about that in my book. And so when we see that relationship and how everything is shifting into correction of inversion, these corrections are actually happening within ourselves. So we are the conduit that it's all moving through. Social engineering and geoengineering to me go hand in hand. We're elemental beings. The nucleic acids of our DNA are elemental. And with the ether energy coming back online, out of the reversal that it's been in, very symbolic of the inverted pentagram, now that the corrections have completed themselves to the point where the sun is moving through Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, and the ether element is now standing in alignment within our own beings, this mitochondrial activation is purifying our inner elementals, and the earth is responding to us. And how it's responding is it's breaking down dark weaponry, it's purifying toxicity, and it's beginning to make it very, very difficult for frequency weaponization to hook in. But we're seeing this sort of bifurcation where it's working really well on a lot of people, but it's really, really being removed from others. So quantum to me means we are working beyond the surface at the level of energy, consciousness, and all possibility, and the unseen patterns that shape our reality. When we are, aware of them, we can be more mindful in every moment to constantly be collapsing grid networks that are in inversion and frequency weaponization, realizing that we are the override frequency and we are the script writers. And that quantum field that we work with stretches it out to the multidimensional cosmos, and then we begin to realize we are not alone, and there's a lot more to the picture than we can imagine. So I'll just kind of keep it at that.
That
I
was a
second that.
mouthful.
I second that.
That was brilliant. Thank you. I don't know who would like to go next to add on to that one.
I'm not following that.
Oh, you guys
That was
Laura, you
beautiful.
can't help it. You're just an amazing being and you
Yeah.
bring in amazing information. It's just, it comes out and we're like, whoo. Anyway.
hilarious. That's how I feel about all of you. And I know I've been meeting you guys for the first time, and I mean, it's so mutual. And I just feel the activation just being here with all of you. So I appreciate it because I'm like, I
Yeah.
hope it came out okay. Well,
No, I love it so much. I
Yeah.
personally do.
Agreed.
My contribution to We Are Quantum, it's an amazing thing, understanding the multitude, the multi-universe, the densities, the dimensions, how we interact and react, and how we manifest, and all these things, right? But in reality, it should come as natural as the growth of grass. I mean, it should be so natural to us, and it is. We just forgot,
We forgot.
Yeah.
and so that's what this book is about. That's what we're talking about today, is remembering who we are, how amazing we are as individuals and as a full total race. We are amazing. I'm telling you that. But we don't always act amazingly. And that's what we have to work on. As an individual and as a society, we have to find, because, part of the only thing that makes quantum anything quantum is the love. is source, is the energy, is the frequency, the vibration of love. In the upper fourth density or mid upper fourth density, where we are just at the very beginning of, love isn't a concept. Love is a measurable energy. Love is manifestation energy. And it can turn any molecule into any other molecule your heart and mind desire. So we just have to remember who we are. And if we do, if we did, we wouldn't have wars, we wouldn't have arguments. I mean, we would have discussions, because we all got to hash out information sometimes, and that's cool. That's okay. But being quantum is being part of the universe on a level that we have forgotten we have the capability of doing. And
Well, it's interesting you talk about love because we have been brainwashed and conditioned that and I even talked about this yesterday. Like I won an award for having one of the worst bosses when I lived in New York City. Like horrible man. Like I was tortured actually by a couple of different bosses in the garment center. And that was always like, you gotta treat people that way in order to be successful. Like our whole society was brainwashed to treat people that way to be successful. And there's a whole unraveling that has to happen because the way a lot of these people have been successful was through inversion, was through selling their soul. So, but we didn't know that. So
Mhm.
we had all these people who we admired and people who were successful doing things that we couldn't even imagine to get there. And so it's a whole societal change of belief systems that we can actually be successful through love and kindness. Like
more so usually.
people don't believe that because they haven't seen it yet.
Well, it was treated as a weakness. It still is
Yes.
treated as a weakness.
Yes.
Yeah, good
But you
point.
have no idea how much strength it takes to show love in the worst possible scenario and to show kindness. It is
And
so much more strength and power than reacting, acting, and performing.
and that's what we're all being called to do right now. I mean, we always have been. We're just remembering.
Mhm.
And it's, yeah, you appreciate everything now. It's like everything I walk by. Wow. Holy, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Just, it's so quantum, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Love.
So for people to be introduced, I mean, these two amazing healers who are here too, Honey and Z. Barrie is an incredible artist and photographer, and you see her work. I've stood next to her and tried to take the same picture as her, and doesn't look anything like her pictures because it's just the way she sees the world comes out on in her art. So it's pretty amazing. Z came in remembering who she is, and I would imagine growing up like that had to be really hard because you were probably considered an outcast because you could see things that everyone else didn't.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I was totally outside the box. Not as stressful because I had all of the unified field, and that's what I'll call quantum, the unified field that reacts to us. And to me, that is entirely love. It's consciousness. It's how we create. It's how we interact with each other. It's how we play with each other, and it's how we're here right now, right? No, I was very autistic. I had a beautiful mom who did not allow any of those identities to hit me, so that was amazing. But yeah, nothing was linear for me. I was always outside, and I was always in the space of love, love for the animals, love for the plants. I was always interacting with those guys. Humans, not so much. I was like, uh-oh, I'm going to be here for a while. And it was holding that steady through the immensity of the density. And that was a part of my story, was to hold that through. Well, what I expressed in the book was through 13 years of trafficking and the
Mm.
ability to understand that, remember that, hold that steady, know I was getting out of that, and also know this was a part of the ascension process.
That still had to come from a place of love and being connected to Earth and the animal and feel that, and then to have the complete opposite juxtaposition to be trafficked for 13 years, it's not as if you were hardened going into that, like having any kind of protection mechanism. I can't imagine what, do you feel like you were naive going into your situation and that's how it ended up happening?
No, I don't feel like I was naive. I feel like I knew exactly what that process was and why I was going into it. A few times, obviously, like through the trauma aspect of it, I was knocked out a little bit. But what really worked with me was Christ consciousness. Was there the entire time, working my body through the process, any of the deaths, any of the trauma, and because of that, I know my body survived through it. I was very much so guided through the process, and while I was doing it, because I was in my spectrum, my autism. I was using the trees that were around. I was using any type of information that I could to start to break the chains for that piece.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and so how did you heal after coming out of that kind of trauma?
Whew. I escaped humanity for a good period of time and went up into the mountains. And that's where I really stayed for a long time, working my body and my own process, working with healing plants that were up in the mountains, and just with consciousness and the quantum field in general. Because I view things the way that I do, it was easy for me to see the timelines, the dimensionary spaces we were working, what we were working through. I'd say the main skill that I had to work with was being very patient with where we were
Mm.
at on Earth, and the densities and everything moving their way through. I did eventually start working with Native Americans, plant medicine, because they viewed me as an equal, whereas humanity wasn't quite at that point yet. And so I spent many years with them working that process and just getting to a point where I was able to then come back into humanity as a full being and start this process of ascension that we're in right now. Well, we're doing pretty good. We'll say that we're doing good.
Yeah.
We
Awesome.
are.
Yeah. So, honey, I'd love your thoughts on all of this.
So when I think about quantum, I'm thinking about what the vastness of quantum is a lot of the time. And the first time that it really clicked for me was when I started to see what my soul was actually doing in the astral plane. And it took me a while to acknowledge that that was my soul because I was like, what is going on up there? Who is that? Right. And once I figured that out, things started to shift quite a bit more. And I think right now what we're doing is we're uncovering who our soul is, who our human consciousness is, what they're doing here together, and what we're doing for the universe. Because we're collapsing so many timelines by healing them. And a lot of those timelines, a lot of those portions of our soul are coming into our body along with the rest of our soul. And we won't have them all during this process because some pieces are doing other things that are in much higher densities. And they're basically helping us to feel that, to feel those densities, those dimensions, so that we know that we can keep going up. Because we're on that spiral right now, that spiral staircase of ascension. And we are doing so good right now. And you can see it from the split because there is a lot splitting away. And if you're really hanging on to a lot of third density or third dimensional ideas, it's a lot harder to be here right now.
Yeah.
So, and I think one thing too is to remember that we are eternal and just to love everybody that's going just as much as you love who's staying because they did their job too. And they're still going to be existing because they're just going home.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a hard thing for people to wrap their head
Mhm.
around is the multidimensionality of it and the ascension part. But also what I'm noticing with people is the bifurcation of personalities that's happening, if that makes sense. Like people going into extremes because they're dealing with shadows that are coming up, or they're dealing with NPCs, non-player characters that are in a loop. I was just with someone yesterday who said that they were with, two different groups of people who are behaving really bizarrely, like really bizarrely. And I don't know if anyone has any comments on that and what's actually going on with these people and how to deal with that.
I would say,
Well, we're in that split right now.
Yeah.
So they're going to be crazy. They're going to appear crazy. They're going to appear robotic as their consciousness starts to pull out of this reality. They're not going to behave in the way that we would want them to or expect them to because we behave in a certain way because they aren't staying.
So
Yeah.
when you say consciousness being pulled out, so that's that we'll actually start to see more NPCs, or will people just go
I
from
think people are just
just
going
gonna
right now.
go?
They're starting to really go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and what I'm
Mm.
noticing is just the programmings. I mean, people aren't moving through the growth periods that are necessary. They're not doing the clearing work. They're not allowing the downloads or just the direct connect to their own higher self to truly come through and be integrated. It's just being captured constantly by whatever's going on through the devices, through the television, through the news, through everything external. And they're living from the outside in rather than the inside out. So that creative energy is so completely hijacked that their persona is getting more and more kind of engineered into divide and conquer, or personas that are compartmentalized, ego that's compartmentalized away from soul, away from higher self. And it's that's the kind of bifurcation, is that they're getting yanked into this other sort of script, and this frequency weaponization that causes them to just really act bizarrely, while people that are recognizing the challenge, the adversities, even the symptoms that are going on in their body, are using it as a reminder to get closer to the self, to clear what doesn't serve them, to purge and purify and listen and intuit and override and collapse whatever it is that's trying to be the next attempt to thwart our development. Because in every attack or psyop or false flag, there's also a powerful upgrade, and that's why they use the zodiac and weaponize it to create a false storyline at a time where we're about to take a huge leap, in order to hijack and capture our creative energy into what they want to create. And that's why false disclosure narratives are something to be so wary of right now, because they know it's a time of disclosure and a major leap. And so, yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I just watched something this morning that talked about this whole UFC fight that's in the front lawn, the south lawn of the White House. And what they were describing it as is a reversed ceremony to unwind all of the dark, um, spells that were placed on us. So getting the energy really high at these certain alignments is going to start breaking all of those spells. And that's why these specific dates are happening. That's why it's June, I guess it's today. Is that today they're
Yeah.
doing it? Um, all of these are trying to raise people's frequency and vibration to reverse it. I don't know if any of you knew anything about that.
Well, you can't use negative energy, which is people beating the crap out of one another, to do anything positive. So I can't agree with what.
Yeah, I was confused because there's a lot of people who aren't into the UFC fighting, but I don't understand what the whole purpose of that platform is on the South Lawn then.
That's a whole discussion
That's
that we shouldn't get into here. But
Is it showing the
it's
theater
a
of it all?
self-aggrandizement thing.
Say that again?
So it's more of a self-aggrandizement thing.
You think so? Yeah. Z, any thought on that, or where we're headed?
I mean, you have to look at least from my perspective, in a way of we're hitting that remembrance massively.
Mhm.
Okay, so anything that is not willing to look at that, and obviously NPCs are just a part of our story, so that we do look at that, is going to need to be shifted out. And from the way that I perceive it, since the Earth has had multitudes of resets, where we've gotten to the point and then, oh, reset, that didn't work out. Let's try it again. Now it's to the point where we're not resetting anymore. These layers, multidimensionally, all the timelines, all the infinite possibilities of the realities that we're looking at are right in our faces. Right? So even at the bifurcated piece where that density is really strong, it's us who is working this piece to go, but we want to keep it at this reality. Right? We're going to keep turning our heads to this reality, the one that we want in the space. The rest of that's going to shut out more and more once we do that. More of us who are awake keep going, I'm not even going to take a look at that because I know my remembrance. I'm going to keep it at this level. And we work together to do that.
I like that. I like
It's-
that perspective.
Yeah, and what I think about a lot is it's encoded in nature to know how to heal, to know how to advance us, because not because we're advancing to something that we haven't already been, it's because it's already in us. I mean, yes, life experience and gaining wisdom and life lessons are a part of it, but it's encoded in nature, in cosmic and natural law, to regenerate, to upgrade, to create homeostasis, to create balance. So by nature, like in just aligning to it, it brings us exactly back home to source. It's in the laws of physics that it would do so. It takes so much social engineering and mind control to throw us off course, and so much effort on their part to stunt the growth of something that comes so naturally to us. It's pretty amazing.
I appreciate that. And someone who spends a lot of time in nature and grew up in nature is Barrie. And I don't know if you want to talk about that. One of the things that I found so fascinating in living in Vermont in a rural area is the farmers and the people who are really connected to the earth. Because a lot of them don't watch social media at all, computers, and they knew more than any the rest of us. It always blew my mind to sit and talk to them. I'm like, who are you following? Who are you watching? They're like, no one.
Just common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Earth energy connection.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Oh, nature, yes. I did grow up in nature. I grew up in Massachusetts. My family owned ski areas, and so I grew up running through the forest and skiing and riding bikes and motorcycles, and just was a little child all on my own doing my own thing, and I never had anybody or religion. I didn't have religion. Really, nature was my religion and is still my religion. I even write that on my website. For 40 years I've had that. Nature's my guide. And I just have always felt really comfortable being in the wilderness, and it's always given me so much. And I think not having religion was really helpful because when I went out into the world, when I got a little older, and there were all these things they felt they had to do with all the religion that they had gotten, and I didn't know much about it. I was never brought up around church or anything because nature was my church. And when I finally went to church one time with my cousin, who was with an older man that was a friend of the family that she was going to church with, we were sitting in church and I was looking around going, oh my gosh, what is this? Like there are Jesuses everywhere and they're getting hurt. I was 13 years old and I was so sad. And I looked at the gentleman, this was a friend of the family, and I said, nothing against God or Jesus or any of this, but I have to go. And it was in the middle of church. And I got up and I left. I said, I'll be outside waiting for you. And just, I just could feel it. It's like what you were saying about the farmers. I could feel they were trying to put something to tell me something, and I just believed already that this was all God made and we are God and we're all part of the whole. So yeah, I would say that was quite a defining moment in my life. And then I went away to school and people had all these things they had guilt about, and I was like, huh. Anyway, not to say I don't have guilt and didn't have guilt, but Yeah, it just was a real eye opener, and it really made me realize how much nature talks to me. And I spend a lot of time just sitting and looking and conversing and seeing how the light hits a leaf or the way a tree flutters. I just love that about life, and I just consider them all gifts. And yeah, just like you all are.
Uh-huh.
Ah,
So,
Yeah, I always saw
Yeah.
nature as like a manifestation of like our soul. It's just and the communication is, we get closer to ourselves. It's that mirror in so many ways. That's why plant medicine, herbs and food and just the elements move us and heal us and support us, and animal spirits and just all the medicine and even the stings and the predator, just it just sharpens our senses in order to become stronger. So Chris, you were going to say something.
No,
No. Oh, I could have heard.
no, I'm just,
I heard.
I'm listening.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Anyway, it's so beautiful. So Lisa, what was just the process behind? I mean, I know you've already kind of explained it, but I want to hand it back to you for any other questions.
Okay. No, I just, it was interesting because we had a group that met last week. There were about 7 or 8 of us who are authors, just to get to know one another and listening to each person's story, even though I've already read the book many, many, many times. I could probably recite it all 311 pages. Um, I still like get emotional when I hear people's stories of how, because when you talk about the quantum, it's not just the living being that's brought in like in this lifetime. They are carrying in the energy of parallel lives, past lives, their ancestral, epigenetics and traumas that they're working through. And on top of their traumas and everything in this lifetime, and everyone's story is so diverse. And everyone has such a different way of expressing themselves. It was so beautiful. Like Barrie did an art class for her birthday, and we did this really fun exercise where we just took tea bags or wine and spilled it out on paper, and then took a marker and then traced all the different animals and little beings that showed up. And it's like everyone's work was so unique and different, being given the same exact task to do. And that's kind of like what this book is just this expression of everyone is just a unique fractal. And my hope for everyone is that they find at least one person that they relate to. And you don't have to believe every story. You don't have to. It's just just find something that's relatable to you so that it will help you in your life. And I decided to have a landing page on my website that had, and I interviewed every single person who's in the book. So you'll get to have an extension of people's stories, and you'll find out far more about these people and get to know them at such a great level. Some people, I had one person who was like, I'm not going to talk about this. This was really traumatic for me in my life. And then the first thing out of her mouth in the interview was she went all in. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that about you. So people got very vulnerable, and and so it's really beautiful to see. And um, I just feel so, so blessed to have all of you as part of this. Um, I don't know if anyone wants to add about their own story or talk about, quantum and how it's impacted you in your life. Because, like for me, I didn't grow up. I grew up in a very controlled environment. Like all the, you've got Z and Barrie, and I know, honey, you had a lot of nature and stuff in your life. I grew up as a suburb of New York on canned vegetables, canned food. My sheets were dry cleaned every week. I had so many chemicals. I don't know how my family members, my parents are still alive, like all the heavy metals have got to be in my body. Yeah, I didn't, and the lawn was always fertilized and all the weed killer and everything. So I had such a different experience. I was really separated from nature. And it's taken me my entire life to really connect back. I think that's why I love being in Vermont in the middle of the woods so much, is because I needed to experience that really for the first time in my life.
Yeah, my gosh. I grew up, kind of in and out of nature, but I went to high school in the DC area after well, I was born in England but lived in upstate New York, then moved to DC, and I was always dressing like I was about to climb a mountain, and everybody's like, I don't see any big mountains here, and I'm just wearing hiking boots and flannel shirts and like rugged clothes, like, and I didn't even apply for college. I had the worst attendance in my high school, and then I just ended up going into wilderness education and expedition leadership, and it just all like worked out. I only did it for a small amount of time, but it just brought me to center. It just helped me to heal, like everything. It just brought me on point with my mission. It was everything. It was everything. So I just had to share that.
That's so
I
awesome.
hear you. I kind of was like that too. But I also had New York, so I had the balance of both. But I really was always flannel shirts, and I kind of still am. And yeah, just kind of living exactly who we are. We're authentic, you know.
Yeah.
And there is one thing I would like to say, and there's no judgment about the religion that I just talked about because I'm all for it. I'm just saying that was my experience. So I'm all religion's beautiful in however any way anyone, has that. It's just that was my experience. So I was speaking from that.
Yeah.
Just want to make that clear.
I love what you
Yeah,
shared.
thank you.
And Chris, with your experience, because you've done a couple of different, for people who don't know you, you were part of the Secret Space program where you did the 20 and back programs a couple of times. So you've also seen the future. So, we've been talking a lot about the past, and I'd love for you to talk about what you see where we're headed, and um, kind of help us all prepare for that even though there's so much fear mongering right now, what you see where we're headed. Oh,
Oh,
you're
you're muted.
muted.
Thank you. So, uh, for the most part, I have zero doubt the Earth isn't going to be a fantastic place to be. It's just going to take, um, my guesstimation now from what I remembered to when it's going to be a full force density space, multiple races interacting with us is less than 80 years. Now that's a long time, but that's when it's complete. So the Earth's transition into full force density positive is, I think, less than 80 years, but close to 80 years. But there are a number of things that have to happen, and that's happening a lot right now. And that the light of love and evolution, light's shining in the darkness, and it's shine and you shine in the darkness, you're going to see things that's really uncomfortable, and that's where we are. But that's to allow us to see the truth and to allow us to make those changes. Now, is it going to be, a terrible ride the whole way in the next 80 years? No. There's going to be points that are difficult. I mean, we're living it, right now, and we'll be living some more difficulties, but we're not going to be destroyed. I think it was Z that said that um, that the human race had been reset, and that's correct. 6 times. This is the seventh, and there's no additional one. And so I know that the future of the earth is utopian and really beautiful. There aren't any negative beings being souls being incarnated, and that's our problem because right now we're a free will, open incarnation cycle. Although they have begun shutting that down so that the vibration of the earth and the better that you and I share our frequency and we raise the frequency of the whole human race and ultimately the planet, then these negative beings can't incarnate any longer on Earth. Most of them cannot currently. But as we move forward, then that'll increase more and more. And so, I mean, yes, I've seen it. I've seen the future of the Earth, and it is spectacular. Oh, I can't wait for everybody to see it. But we just a few things we got to deal with, clean house and deal with a few things that are really difficult in the process. But we'll all be okay. And listen, the great thing about it is if I'm not going to be, there's just no way I'm going to be here in 80 years. But the process is that it becomes better and better and better and better. It doesn't just switch, right? So there will be laws and there will be circumstances, there will be changes that we have to be open to hearing change, especially in our society, so that we can determine what's the best route for the future. Not even as much as where we are right now. We have all chosen to be here in the time that we're here. And because of that, there are certain things we have to be the pioneers. We are the ones in the wagons going for months at a time through the southwest of America, trying to have a better life.
If that even
And
happened.
well, well, we got here somehow.
Anyway, that's another conversation.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just saying as an example of being the pioneer, of being the people that do the work.
Yeah.
We chose to be here at this time. And so we just have to understand that it's okay that we have to do a little more work than most people will have to in the future. I mean, don't we want that for our kids?
Yes,
Definitely.
very
You
beautiful.
know, it's interesting that you talk about, that, and I'm wondering, honey, from your perspective, because timelines have been shifting and changing.
Mhm.
They're constantly changing all the time, and I know you see those. So, what is it that you see us moving into from the standpoint of what has changed even recently with some of the timelines and where we're headed?
Well, they're changing constantly. So I actually see a little faster thing going on there than the 80 years. But the 80 years, that could be the utopia when everybody's figured it out,
Hmm.
when everybody's in community, when people have all of the advanced technology, and we will have in between time there. The thing that I like to remind my audience of a lot is we're actually doing really beautifully.
Hmm.
You can have whatever experience that you want to have. And there's a very beautiful timeline that's unfolding right now, and that's why the 3D is splitting off. So just to remember that a lot of us will experience creating the foundation of the new world for everyone, which is what Chris is talking about, like doing the work for everybody. And some people may not experience the utopia as a whole. So think about what it's going to take for the whole society to get to that point. However, a lot of us will experience it much sooner. So that's what I see is that it's faster. But it depends on what your point of view is too.
Well,
So,
also it's individualistic. We don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to move with society. We can move on an individual level.
Mhm.
The 80 years, guesstimation is really when the process is complete.
yes.
Right.
See, so there are many, many positive, beautiful changes prior to that. So it's just that's what I'm saying. We just got to live through the up and down process because in 80 years it'll all be done, and we're going to be all be living a very different life in a very positive way. And we're part of the incarnation cycle, so we can leave and come back, and we can pick how old we'll be at that time. It's what we did now.
Yeah.
So it's completely under our own personal
Yeah.
control.
Well, you got to pick a couple of times.
I've picked several.
And see, I was watching you for someone who doesn't know, when she does this with her hands, it's like this calculating thing that's going on that she's seeing. I don't know if you
Yeah,
understand.
very much so.
Yeah, I love watching her. I'm like, I don't know if people understand what this means when you watch Z.
Better tapping. I'm always running it. Yeah, first off, thank you everybody for your perspective. And I do want to like just bring it back to that. We all have our different perspectives here, and they all create this puzzle piece that we're working with. And from my perspective, I do see it coming in faster. For us pioneering it, as long as we're also doing what we're doing right now, coming on and talking about it, right? Keeping the vibes going very strong, being able to be in community ourselves and pioneering it ourselves. And um, I have a lot of gratitude right now for the space coming in because I'm so excited for us right now too, and for the newer space that's coming in because that's where I like to keep my resonance most of the time, and that's how I do pioneer is like, oh look, that's where it's at. That's beautiful. How do I embody that right now with where I'm at, and allow the densities to view that aspect of myself and shift themselves and keep it steady. And then now it's how can I co-create with you guys in the best way possible because we were doing it so much on our own for a while because we needed to look at our internal dialogue. And as we still do that, we get to come together in such a great way and celebrate like we're doing now. So,
Oh, I love this.
Mhm.
Quick question for you guys is how is disclosure coming into play with everything? What is the importance? Like I just watched the Steven Spielberg movie Disclosure, and there was a photo, like an AI photo of President Trump with two Nordics, and that's spreading around like wildfire. Like, what is the purpose of bringing the extraterrestrials and interdimensional beings in right now?
I think it's so we can have another perspective.
Another thing to wake,
Mhm.
just, I don't like the word wake, but another thing to just people go, wow, oh, I never even thought about that, you know? That's interesting. Like all those questions that run through someone's head.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it has to do with what timeline are you choosing? I mean, we're multidimensional beings. We are these beings in many ways. We have been them before. We are other versions of offshoots of what it might mean to have been a gray or I mean, I think everybody's got their own personal soul journey when it comes to their earthly physical body and their galactic self. And I feel disclosure is meeting that mirror and also meeting the distortions and the engineered narratives that want us to stay dependent. And to me, it's no different than, you know, AI or anything else that we might form a dependency bond with that could potentially leverage our fears, our vulnerabilities, and come in sort of in this problem reaction solution kind of game. I can say that some of the players, some of the individuals that are sharing disclosure information on a very, very big public level were my recruiters to go to Mars. So I know what they're connected with, and I know that I know what they put me through in my ex. So I'm trying to tread that a little bit lightly and carefully. Probably not as careful, or maybe too careful. I don't know. I'm just kind of letting myself be guided by spirit because I don't like to make anybody the bad guy. We don't know how they're being blackmailed. We don't know what kind of mind control they might be under. We don't know how compartmentalized it all is to the point where somebody might think that they're the most well-intentioned person, but behind the next door that's compartmentalized, there's a whole nother thing going on. And everybody only has need to know basis information and access to whatever was on a need to know basis. So to me, even though I know that particular person was involved in very nefarious things, it's a big conversation for all of us to be a part of. We all have a piece. The true disclosure is us and restoring the divine blueprint and overcoming where beings have engineered or modified us for their own purposes and use, and where we get to determine whether or not we're going to stay in this dependency bond or loop. And for some, that's what they want. And for others, can you see this mirror? Can it be activating? Is this presence helping you to remember who you are? Or is it looking to come in and save the day. So I think everybody's going to handle all this a little bit different as far as who they choose to listen to and what they choose to align with. And it doesn't mean disclosure has to be coming through your television or on the news. People have already had a disclosure experience. They are the disclosure. We've been talking about this for years. And I just feel that all conversations are going to matter. And it's very, very important that all voices are heard. There's false narratives that have been engineered since the 1950s. The infiltration into the United States, the ICC, Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, Nazi Draco Alliance, and this particular group that is headlining disclosure, they're the ones that have engineered the false narratives. So I think, like Chris said, it's not going to be the same for everybody. But I look at it like a relationship. We can see the red flags. Your friend's dating somebody that has serious red flags. You want to say, hey, you know, did you check his text? Or, you know, like her, I could see her making out with that guy at the bar. He's sure he really, you know, you want to say something, but at the same time, some people have to learn the hard way and decide who is who and begin to develop their self-worth, their discernment, and their ability to see who's really right for them to be in the most coherent relationship with creation, which activates our divine blueprint. And the beings that are in alignment with that, to me, is the greatest disclosure timeline. The rest of it is a part of the learning experience, and we can do our best to warn and be a resource, but we can't do it for anybody, just like the ETs shouldn't do it for us. But they should, as long as that's what we need to experience to find our sovereignty again.
No, it's so interesting because having watched the movie, it was very different than I expected. And I was with people who were knowledgeable about extraterrestrials to a point, and then there were people who had no information at all. It was seeing things for the first time. And so what I noticed, it was really more about cover up and technology, and not so much about the actual beings. Like I was hoping to see more benevolence and connecting with beings. I don't want to give too much away, but I had shared with Chris about some of the technology that, you know, I'd witnessed, and I was like, is that something that we have truly used? Like, was that used nefariously the way that they had described, where they could actually enter into people's beings like that and see through their eyes?
Yeah.
It exists.
It exists, yeah, for sure. I would say absolutely, depending again on your experience, which timeline you're on, what you wanted to come learn and experience. And again, that's now, at least in my experience, that's a split. I can realize, oh, that's where that was, but that's also not where I'm heading. I feel like the full disclosure is our sovereignty. It's us knowing us the most, our remembrance. And once we understand that, those beings are an aspect of ourselves, right? They'll come in to interact with us on the highest space as long as we're intentionally wanting to be there.
Well, part of the problem is, I mean, I don't want to call it a problem. Part of the issue is that we're expecting someone else to do the job. When in reality, it's you and me. We have to raise our vibrational state, psychic abilities, kinetic abilities, empathic abilities, so that they can communicate. But then we have to raise our own frequency enough so they can come down. It's extremely difficult to communicate in the third density where we're still not fully out of. And we just have to make it as easy as possible for them, and then they'll start communicating with us on an individual level, and that will continue to build and build and build, and that's really where disclosure is the most important.
It's the same thing. Like, it's very hard for our soul and spirit energy to be anchored in our physical vessel. If it's toxic, it like hangs out outside of it. It's like, sorry, it's just not a pure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because even I've spoken to a couple of people who have remembered, you know, like actually remember having their soul come into their body, and Chris is one of them, and talking about how difficult it is to condense that energy into these tiny beings and how painful it can be. And there's a woman, Kara, who I've been speaking to, talked about how much it hurt. It physically hurt. And then I talked about, well, these babies that are here, do they have full consciousness? And she's like, absolutely. They know they know exactly what's going on. So even though you're sitting there, you know, with a bottle with an infant, they're completely aware their consciousness is completely aware and thinking like we do, which was hard for me to wrap my brain around.
And what happens is we're taught that we're not smart at
Yeah.
that age. We're treated, and we're not seen, so we just let it go. It's like also we're first incarnate in that little body, so there's a lot of residual stuff after you move through the veil of forgetting, a lot of stuff that comes with you. Now, if we knew and had the presence of mind, or the parents have the presence of mind to actually nurture that,
Mm.
that's the key, because then we can retain it if we're not judged for speaking it.
I
Yeah.
had a huge party when I walked in,
Oh,
and I was
what?
18 months old. So you
Oh,
just get so excited when you finally get all the way in. You're like, I made it, made it into the body. And it really is a beautiful thing. Like we have a human consciousness and we have our big soul that's like the guide of the human consciousness. And once your soul gets in a bigger capacity, it's like everything opens up. So I definitely, that was my first memory, the moment that I walked in.
Do you remember a lot of your childhood, like
Yeah, I
after that?
remember. Oh, yeah.
Because
I
some of
remember
us
being
have, yeah.
2 and 3 and, getting mad when I heard about plastic and singing with the reel-to-reel tape recorder and making music when I was like 2.5, 3 years old. So, yeah. And I remember being irritated with Earth quite a bit when I was little.
Hmm.
So, thinking, what are they doing? Who's running this place? That was one of my famous thoughts. Who is running this place? What are they doing?
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
And
it
how
was
old were
funny.
you when you did that? When you
Like
were asked?
3. Yeah,
Wow, that's
I
great.
got really mad about plastic. I wanted more containers for my Legos, and my mom was like, "Well, we're trying not to have so much plastic because it doesn't biodegrade. It hurts the earth." And then I was mad. It was like the first moment of me being mad, and I was like, "That's against the law. They're not allowed to be doing that." So I was pretty mad that day, but
And then they try and silence, just these, instincts in children and put it in a box. If there's one type of intelligence, if you don't measure up, you'll be ostracized, you will be labeled, you will be medicated. And that's what I love about
Yeah.
astrology. It shows that all these different forms of intelligences, the mystics, the empaths, the ones that can't sit still in class because they're the inventors, they're the ones getting the down, and that's what, if astrology could be brought into the schools, would be really great. But what you guys are saying that I was just thinking of is the planet Earth has been the same, with the mother arc energy being anchored back into her body, because the dark reversal grids, the dark mother reversal grids, the mothers of darkness, the 13 families, that whole infrastructure is rigging society to keep out advanced souls and to keep ascension from happening. The whole system is rigged with this infrastructure to prevent that from happening, because they knew that this window period would be a time of remembrance and awakening. So they engineered the timeline to be New World Order, further enslavement, and all these different tactics along the way to work alongside and parallel to this organic unfoldment. And we've done well enough as a humanity for the mother to be able to come back into her body and anchor back in the diamond sun that is activating, all of this alchemical shift, which is a law of creation, to really transmute and turn the lead into gold, the carbon to crystalline. And it's exactly what we're saying about landing in our bodies, getting into our bodies. Mother Earth reclaiming her body has evicted, or is evicting, all those that station themselves in the Stargate areas with the dark tech and reversal grid technology to keep her from coming in, keep her from reclaiming her body. And so all the programmings we endure and all the attacks are for the same thing. Don't get into your body, just be this product of society, an engineered persona, a label, a diagnosis. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And it's interesting when you talk about that, because I met this woman, Barrie found this woman, Kara, online, and I've spoken to her a couple times. she was labeled autistic, and I'm sure you had to deal with this too, Z, is that they tried to put her in this box, and she's telepathic.
Mhm.
She's, she's got incredible empathy, and she communicates. She came in with all of her memories, and all she wanted her whole life was to be normal and fit in because everyone kept telling her she was broken. And
Mm.
she met, I guess it's her it's not the soulmate, it's the other part of her soul, um,
Noah.
Noah. And they are one soul, and he's male, and he's also artistic, and he's non autistic, and he's nonverbal. And they, were communicating before they actually met, physically met. And they finally came together. It's a really cute story, but they communicate telepathically, and they understand things just like you do, Z, and Honey, and so many people see things that the rest of us don't see. And instead of allowing that, we have, as you said, Laura, medicate people and putting them down. Like, I'm ADD, and I'm sit there and I can do 4 or 5 things at once.
You
And
can.
people who don't understand, they watch me and they're like, what are you doing? Stop. You're going so fast. And I'm like, that's how my brain works. I can't help it. And
I was always on the sit and spin going like warp speed, like ready to take off like a UFO.
yeah.
I was so I love it. I love it though. And that's what's shifting in the world is just breaking all that down, because if you can regurgitate, if you can be indoctrinated, you'll get an A, you'll get rewarded, you'll get the paycheck, and it's great to see how these swamps are being drained, all the pillars of society that have held
Yeah.
these reversals to keep us dependent and exploited and leveraging our amnesia. But so many well-intentioned people don't do it on purpose. It's just what they've been taught, and they're breaking free of that, and they're able to bring so much more to the field that they entered, because they're very gifted people, obviously,
Yeah.
but they
You
have to
know,
go through being ostracized, of course. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just thinking about something that you said earlier, which was when you were in class and you're in school and okay, I got indoctrinated. You've got right, like what you just said, Laura. And I remember in school that I would always be watching the teacher sometimes I'd sit in the front row, depended, but I'd want to get a great view of how they were moving their hand, how their writing was on the wall. I was looking at everything but listening to her or anything but I'd
I was
watch
like,
how they moved, how, their clothes flowed. And then I'd be like, oh, I know the answer. And I was inevitably wrong, but I was just so
oh my
enthusiastic.
gosh, that's so
Oh
funny.
my gosh. It was hilarious. And I didn't think about it until after, life went on. And I'm like, wow, I really didn't listen to anything they said,
I didn't either.
because I wasn't interested. I listened in art class, I listened in sports. Those were the classes I really cared about.
Yep.
And I listened to my friends,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
And
really didn't
nature.
hear much of what the teacher said the whole time I
Never
was in
did. I was
school.
always my imagination was out the window. I
Yeah,
couldn't read a book. I'd be like, "Who's Jack?" Like, oh, he was like, I'm like, all of a sudden, this
main
character. I'm
character.
like, I couldn't read correctly. I couldn't follow any. I just they didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I
we all
never
have that
listened.
in common.
Yeah, yeah. I never listened to any of it. I always got in trouble for saying this is a stupid game and I'm not going to play it, and I'd walk out of school or come back in and observe it. And they would say something, and I would go into like, well, why don't you throw out some dodecahedrons? I did that a lot. Also, it got me in trouble. Eventually, my mom just took me out. So.
And that's the platonic solid. That's like the ether, like the most powerful and targeted one. So that's amazing that you were like, "Hey, the planet needs this."
How about this? They're like, nope.
Yeah, they had no idea what you were talking about. But it is about, breaking outside that box and knowing that everyone has their own brilliance and stepping into you. And that's why I love this book so much, because you're going to see each person's brilliance and how they manifest in their own way. All of a sudden, it's like Liz Perkins who's communicating with plants. And then you have people who are communicating, like Alicia Main, Dr. Alicia Main had these wild horses taught her everything. She started communicating with horses. And it's just so fascinating to see how everyone comes alive and how everyone steps into it. And as Chris said, when you come into that place of love, I've seen how in my life, working so hard to come out of fear and come out of control and just learning how to manifest. Like when I get passionate about something like travel, it just shows up at boom, 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 boom. And then other parts of my life would be stagnant. I'm like, well, why do I manifest that so easily and these other parts not so much? And I realized that it's every aspect I had to shift. I had to shift my whole outlook about my work, my outlook about myself, about putting myself out there. Everything had to shift. I had to let go of my shadows. And so the more I do that, the more easily everything happens. And so like this book, We Are Quantum, is kind of I'm using this metaphor. It's like a hot air, balloon that I just kind of let go of, and it's kind of got a life of its own at this point. And it's really, people say it's your book. I say it's all of our books. This is information that I'm hoping to create a movement so that people better understand humanity and how we work and how they can start changing the way they live their lives.
That's so amazing. Yeah.
It's
So
wonderful.
And
yeah,
it just holds that unity. It just holds that all these different perspectives and different life paths just all converge on the pages of this book that I don't know, it's so intuitively guided, and how you just went about it is really cool.
it's interesting you just said unity. There's a woman, Lori Daniel Falk, who was not an artist. She was working in the fashion industry and gets this download, start to draw. She's like, what? Draw. And for 6 months, she's like, I'm not an artist. And she kept getting a voice, and she started channeling angels. And she would draw these angels that got encoded with healing properties. And one of her drawings is in the book in black and white. And she sent me as a gift the Unity Angel, because that's what goes with this book. It's all about unity and us coming together and working together. Because it's not on yes, individually we need to do this work, but we also need to come together and show each other what love is. And the hardest part for people is going to be loving the parts of themselves and the mirrors that come up that we don't like about ourselves, and the people that show up that we were like, we can't stand because there's some aspect in ourselves that we can't stand. And it's about, I don't have to like them and hang out with them, but I can still forgive them, and I can forgive people I don't know, and I can love people from afar and thank them for the trauma and damage they did to my psyche. Because I am who I am because of them. And so it's a different kind of
Mhm.
love that most people don't understand.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know if there's anything that I haven't touched upon that anyone want to say before we finish up.
Well, it's been so incredible to meet all of you that I have not really gotten to meet before. And I just hope to do some one-on-one and get to know you more. I'm so thrilled to have been a part of this book. I'm excited to see where it goes, and it's it's really good timing that this release for
It
sure.
is.
We're dealing with a
It is.
major Venus conjunct Jupiter square Chiron. Lots of deep, profound wounds are coming to the surface, and when you can tap into that larger picture and how in our micro world how much it impacts everything around us. The willingness to be vulnerable and healing of the heart and turning our wounds into wisdom and pain into purpose is really where it's at. So I just want to thank you so much for um, pulling this together, and really grateful. And yeah,
Oh,
so if anybody else wants to share anything before we go that you wanted to share that you might not have been able to.
Can I ask you something, Laura,
Mhm.
about when you were a leader for maybe Knowles or whatever you said, outdoor wilderness? What, do you have any of your students you're still in touch with that really resonated with you, that really connected with you, that I mean, you probably taught them some amazing lessons that they didn't even know that they're still thinking about today.
Uh, it was more in the courses that I did. I didn't go into the field as a professional except for my own retreats and things that I created. So I did NOLS, I did Wilderness Education Association in the Adirondack Mountains. And then I did like my own like other courses. But when we were doing the expeditions together, like the 3-month one we did in Baja and in the desert, it was just amazing. It was amazing what we all kind of taught each other. And I just saw
Right.
strength come out at me, which was so different because what we were talking about, the school systems were like, you have learning disabilities. You're just like, you need to go on meds and, just all this crap. It's like I found myself and just the miracle of what it means to just really be connected to your heart and to your soul and just the magic and synchronicities and the way nature responds versus somebody who's still in negative ego and,
Right.
and just how you can see the powers of manifestation based in our perception, based in how we carry that taught me so much. And I ended up sharing a lot about that with the group and it was my day to lead. I was going to do it professionally, but I was like getting hit with so much with just the targeting that I'm like, I don't know if I feel like I could take a bunch of people into the wilderness. What if I just I more did it for my own healing, but I did get top scores and I was certified to be able to do that. But that was a long time ago. I don't think I should probably
No, I
maybe
was just
go
wondering,
back into it. But yeah, so
I was
what
just
about you
wondering,
guys real
like, to
quick?
be a
Like,
student of yours, because you were leading them, right?
well, we had our days where we would take
Yes.
on a leadership role, and I did that a little bit afterward. I got certified and I was ready to go. And then I just got hit with the Mars
Yeah.
stuff and all the mission stuff, and then I had twins.
Got it. Oh, well, yeah.
But yeah, I just real quick, if anybody wants to share like anything that they found, in your time and just anything you might want to share on that. Anybody else? Just experiences that reminded you of how energy works and perception that really shifted you forever. Like I'll never forget that. Like for me, like not being in poverty consciousness when I had $10 to my name when I was living on the road. I always felt free, but I'd get off the phone with my mom and I'd be like, all right, I guess I am a loser mom. And how that would change the way I manifested. And when I broke through that, I would abundance, synchronicities. And I know we all know this very, very easily and well, but it's amazing when we catch ourselves how that one shift of thought can change the nature of your path.
I did
Well,
that in college.
yeah.
I would just go into the financial aid guy and go, "Hey, I really, I'm going to be a photographer. I'm really doing this." And I just somehow they give me money. And I got through college that way. 4 of them. New York, San Francisco, and Boston. I had to move around to get the financial aid, but it worked. So, yeah.
But even working through others from the standpoint of 25 years ago, I was training as a hypnotist, and the woman who trained me was a former Episcopal nun who channeled Mother Mary. And I'm sitting in class and she looks at me and she goes, Mother Mary said you're going to Medjugorje in Bosnia in 5 years. And I'm like, Medjugorje what? I'm like, I grew up Jewish. I have no idea what you're talking about. And doesn't Bosnia still have landmines? Like, what would I be doing there 5 years? 5 years to the month. I was in Medjugorje and my ex-husband chose the trip because it was a motorcycle trip and all the magic and miracles that happened to get me there. So I've learned to just go into that state of wonder and surrender and trust because if it doesn't happen through me, then someone else, like I was completely out of the picture on that one. I was given the information and someone else made it happen and it still happened. It was amazing. And one of the things
But
that I wanted to say is when people are dealing with their shadows and people are behaving crazy right now, don't take it personally. It's not about you. Let them have their tantrum. Let them behave the way they are. Don't engage. Just let them have their lesson or whatever it is and don't take it on. Because the minute you start doing that, it takes you away from your own personal journey.
Totally. I mean, that's why they siphon and harvest our energy. They steal our energy to create with. They've lost that direct connect, but we haven't. We have a choice to stay aligned, to not get it entangled or have it be infected or have it be stolen. Because they're the powers that stole, we're the powers that be, I like to say.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I want to let everyone know this Tuesday, June 16th, we're having an authors event. I'll send you the links so you have them, Laura. Um, so right now we've got almost 25 of the 36 authors are going to be there. And it's an opportunity to hear from all the different authors just for a couple minutes, and there'll be a question and answer for them. And I have a special price right now. I originally tried to make it $8.88, but Amazon didn't have that same idea as I did, so it's $9.99 because they're not making enough money at $8.88. So it's going to be a special price, and then the price will go up on Wednesday. I think it's going to be $19.99 because the book is 311 pages. It's a big beefy book. We also, for those people who are overseas in Europe or Australia, we're doing another event that morning. So there's a 6 a.m. Eastern time and a 7 p.m. Eastern time, two separate events because we have someone in Ireland, two people in Sweden, and a bunch of people out of the Czech Republic who are going to be there. So it's going to be really, really fun. And those people who sign up, they will get a free group quantum healing. So that's included as my gift. Thank everyone for participating and supporting this event.
Awesome. So we'll see you there. I look forward to
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah,
we'll
so the
share
links will be below, but you can go on my website. You can go lisamindset.com under We Are Quantum, where books are, and you can sign up there, but I'll give you the direct link.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us today on my channel. Really appreciate you being here, and we'll see you very soon next week, or this coming week, Thursday, you said, right?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. All right. Okay, everybody. Take
All
care.
right.
Thanks for being
Take
here.
care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.